If you've ever wondered, am I saved, or found yourself in a conversation with someone else who's trying to process whether or not they're saved, it can be unsettling. The Bible is full of what I think of as litmus tests for our spirituality, and in this video, I'm going to look at a verse that lists 3 things that give evidence to a life filled with God's love, and then give you some clear and simple next steps if maybe you decide you're not saved. Or maybe you are, but you've grown so cold towards God that it feels like you're not. The first thing that gives evidence of a life filled with God's love is a pure heart. The Apostle Paul encourages his young mentee Timothy with these words: "The aim of our charge is love that issues from a pure heart." Paul's saying that our goal as believers is love, but it's not just any kind of love. It's a special love that's characterized by the combination of what's going on in our hearts, which no one can see, it's just between us and God, and how it is that we're living our life, which everyone can see. So with just a few words, Paul is showing us that salvation is God changing us from the inside out. He's working in and through us, producing the love of God. The question is, do you recognize this in yourself? Do you recognize a change in your motivations for God that's resulting in a life lived for God, specifically in the way that he tells you to live for him? Jesus says we need purified hearts just to see God for who he is, let alone want to live our lives for him. So it could be that if you're not living a life to honor God, that you've never received that heart purifying gift of grace that comes when you put your faith in Jesus. But here's the deal. Don't let that possibility paralyze you with fear, because wondering about it, wanting to change, that is all evidence of God drawing you to him, God working in you, and that's amazing. So you might consider just giving your life to Jesus now so there's no question, and then trusting him over time that he's going to help you understand if, yes, this was the time he actually saved you, or maybe he just was drawing you to repentance through conviction. Either way, today becomes a day that you can always look back and know that you know. It used to be when people asked me when I was saved, I would say, well, it was either 16, 21, or 35. I'm not sure when I was saved, but I know I'm saved now. Because it took years for me to get clarity on that in my own life, largely because of all the things that were going on that have to do with the second thing that gives evidence to God's love in your life, a good conscience. Again, Paul says, the aim of our charge is love that issues from a pure heart and a good conscience. Putting our faith in Jesus and what he's done for us is what opens up the eyes of our heart to God. But it's also what positions us to be lavished in his love. What I picture is like a big, beautiful waterfall of God's love and hope and peace and joy. When we ignore or reject God in any part of our life, it results in a seared or corrupted conscience that confuses us and makes us feel far from God. Because spiritually speaking, we have actually repositioned ourselves away from that waterfall of God's love. Maybe kind of like holding up and hiding under a big, ugly, gross umbrella. It's not that God stopped loving us. We've just positioned ourselves away from receiving it, and eventually we forget about it. So this good conscience isn't about going to confession and clearing your conscience so that you can feel better after doing bad things like a lot of people think that it is. A good conscience is allowing God to change the way that we think about what good and bad even means, so that we'll stop willfully walking away from his love. Yes, it could be that the eyes of your heart have not been opened yet because you've not received that gift of grace that comes from putting your faith in Jesus. Or it could be that you're a believer who has walked so far away from God that you've forgotten what his warm embrace feels like. And now it's time to turn back to him. And that leads to the third thing that gives evidence of a life filled with God's love, a sincere faith. Paul tells Timothy, the aim of our charge is love that issues from a pure heart, a good conscience, and a sincere faith. The way we live always points to what we truly believe. And Paul is saying that a sincere faith in God is characterized by a life lived with God's love. Remember, it's what's going on in our hearts, which no one else can see, and how we're living our life, which everyone can see, combines in a way that is undoubtedly of God's love. But claiming to be a Jesus follower while intentionally not following Jesus in any part of your life is called something else. It's not sincere faith, it's called hypocrisy. And hypocrisy only ever makes us feel far from God and forgotten by him. And it ensures that we will not be able to sincerely love the people in our lives. And all of that has a way of making life feel super heavy and difficult to navigate. But recognizing our own hypocrisy is a gift from God because it allows us to acknowledge it to him and ask him to help us trust and obey him fully so that we can experience a life filled with his love. You might need to receive God's gift of grace by putting your faith in Jesus. Or it could be you need to talk to God about that thing that you've been trying to keep from him, surrender it to him, and turn back to him. And then sometimes we just find ourselves in a spiritual desert because that's a part of maturing as believers. Either way, confidently moving forward because we know that he's good and he loves you and he wants what's best for you. For more on any of this, check out this video on 3 verses that encapsulate what it means to give your life to Jesus. If you found this video helpful or entertaining, make sure to subscribe so that you can receive all the new ones just like it as they come out. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time.